Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're calling in from. We really appreciate it. I know it's a hard time in the world right now for a lot of people, so I really appreciate you taking the time to spend your energy here with me today to learn about community building. Before I dive a little bit too deep into this, let me give a quick agenda about what we're going to talk about. So I'll give a quick history about me, and then we'll go on to pillars of success for community building, steps that you can take to build out your developer community, the virtual world of today, and I'll leave a few minutes at the end for some questions. So a quick history about myself. I'll start in 2013. I was hired as an office manager at Xamarin. And it was for those of you who don't know, Xamarin was one of the first cross-platform mobile application softwares using C#. And back then, Xamarin was also just a really tiny startup in Boston, Massachusetts, with about 35 people. But we were a team, we were a family. And I'm still very close to a lot. And that actually branches out to our community members as well. And at that time, it was in part my responsibility to help build and nurture that team identity that we had. I did this through organizing activities such as team building, office outings, after work hangouts, and celebrating successes such as new releases and partnerships with new vendors. And identifying this on a smaller scale and highlighting individual successes such as birthdays and oops, lost my spot. Celebrating birthdays and citizenship approvals, marriages, and new baby arrivals. Building out the community from within the workplace and identifying opportunities for collaboration is really what launched my career in this space. Xamarin, oh, my bad, I'm reading something. So building out the community from within the workplace and understanding the needs of my coworkers and identifying opportunities for collaboration is really what launched my career. Xamarin recognized the importance of these efforts that I was making, and shortly thereafter, I was promoted to the community manager in 2014. And that was at a time when community manager wasn't really a job description, and it was also for a community that I wasn't entirely a part of at the time. I don't have a computer science background. I don't have a CS degree. But I knew that I knew what I needed to do. And that was understanding the needs of our users and anticipating opportunities for collaboration and growth. With this in mind, it was me and my team of 5 evangelists, and we were able to grow our small community in Boston to a large global network of developers in just a few years. And this exponential growth rate of our community caught a bit of attention. We had vendors and partners reaching out to us for tips and tricks on building your community and engaging your developer communities. This also eventually caught the attention of some big time players like Google and Apple and even Microsoft. It helped that we had a revolutionary software, but I really think it attributed to the community members who fed the success of the adaptation of the product. From the beginning, and what I mean by that is from the beginning, Xamarin was an open source. And I'll touch on the importance of open source later. But building off the contributions of the community, Xamarin was able to build a product that the people really needed. It listened to its users and developed products. It listened to its users and developed products that that built off the work of others. This co-collaboration allowed us to highlight important contributions to the software via blogs, social, and our forums, which then in turn got the community excited about building with us, knowing that we recognized their contributions, we valued them, and we integrated them back into the product to help benefit other people. And evangelism looked a lot like that for a few years, going to places, organizing events, managing communication channels, setting up survey feedbacks, really all to listen to our users and understand their pain points, learn about the things that they really enjoyed and the things where they would like to see some improvement. But not all was glitter and gold, let me tell you. We did reach levels of stagnation in growth within the community, within the product, and we had to adapt and create new opportunities for developers to re-engage in Xamarin. We wanted to target new devs for early adaptation, which became a really important factor and what contributed to the success of a lot of our efforts. One of those efforts being me and my good friend James Montemagno organized a series of events called Xamarin Dev Days. These were just small local events, anywhere from 20 to 100 people. And we worked with the local organizer and the local community member and leaders to organize these events. We used partners as sponsors, Microsoft venues, and offices as venues. And they were really successful, actually. We had a little over 400 events scheduled globally in just a couple years, and they were really popular, so popular that other companies actually started to mock the model of them. But the collaboration here was key. Xamarin Dev Days would not have been as successful had it not leaned on the local user groups and community organizers to identify the needs of their local community for each event. So fast forward a little bit, woo, Microsoft acquisition, 2016. Xamarin was acquired by Microsoft in part because of its incredible success of the company and importance of the technology. But one reason why I'm still here is because Microsoft really valued the following that we had. And for such a young company, they were really impressed with our global reach. They wanted our team to then integrate these tips and tricks that we had learned into the grander Microsoft community. And that's what I get to do today. So that's a little bit of a history. But what I want to dive into is how all of those things and why all of those things matter. A few of the things that I learned through this journey is there are a few pillars to success here. And these are the ones that I identified as the most important, and I break them down. But feel free to, at the end, to let me know if you have any other pillars of success. So inclusion. This is huge, not only in right now, today, but as a whole, for your company, for your groups, for your communities. This is important. And what I mean is, do what I say. Okay. Yeah, so these are the few points that I had to make about that. One of them is identifying your community members, listening to the needs and the topics of interest that your local community is interested in. What is your group going to focus on? What accomplishments are you trying to make by starting this group? What do you want the people who attend your events to get out of them? And who do you hope to meet in this process? Because this is also about your development as a community member as well. Highlighting individuals within your community. Helping members believe that their involvement is important and valued will really, really go a long way. Prioritizing accessibility. Accessibility offers equal access to your members. It includes considering location, time zone, language, as well as ensuring content is ADA compliant and globally relevant rather than culturally prevalent and specific. Respecting and uplifting marginalized voices. I don't think this one needs too much clarification, but I do think it's very, very important. As well as diversifying your presenters and your content. It's really good to have a well-rounded group of individuals co-contributing to the efforts of your group, to your community, and really getting those different backgrounds. It'll add a lot of value to the growth and the strength of your community as a whole. Creating a safe space for your members is super important. And for those of you who don't know, a safe space is a place or an environment in which a person or a category of people can feel confident that they have not been exposed to discrimination, criticism, harassment, or any other emotional or physical harm. You want people to feel safe and happy to come to your group, or even if that's online. As well as making sure that you set ground rules that everybody in the group understand, know, and identify with. So what I mean by that is it can be useful to keep 4 broad categories: action and communication, the way in which information is shared outside of the group, practical aspects in which you ensure the effectiveness of a meeting, and the rules to decision making, making sure that those all align. Yeah. Also, be an advocate for mental well-being. I think that's super important today as always. And don't forget that organizers themselves also need breaks. So make sure that you're including yourself in that inclusion as well, and recognizing what you need to be proactive in your community. My second pillar is communication. This is so important to making sure that you maintain transparency with your community. Maintaining transparency builds trust. And it also, it builds trust, and it develops a streamline of communication between both your users and your community, as well as the organizers and presenters. Sharing information consistently, whether that be conducting ongoing surveys and displaying that survey results, researching and relaying new content that you found, or highlighting the content from your community, and developing routine announcements, making sure that you're very consistently updating and promoting new events and hosting new events and highlighting new content. Establishing a source of truth, a place where people can go where there's communication that they trust. It's a bit hard in this time and age, but by you doing this, by you repeating a place and a location where people can come to, that they can remember that this is where they go for meetups, events, sources, really identifying that and sticking to that one source of truth, whether that be a website that you create, a meetup page, or your social channels, whether Twitter, Facebook, and so on. And then creating an open channel of communication, not just providing tons of content and sharing and talking about events, but also allowing community members to reach out to you, making yourself available, whether that be through Slack or another chat channel, or emails and distributions lists, or social, whether you use Twitter or Facebook. My final pillar of success is contributions. I very, very much value this, and it goes across all the board. I did not do spell check on this before, but so the first one, sharing and publicizing and promoting community content. Members are tangibly integrated into the community and trust that their efforts are valued when you uplift their voices, when you uplift their work, and repurpose that work. There's no point in reinventing the wheel, no point in duplicating work. Let's promote content from within. This goes for events, hosting events, scheduling events, and participating in your own events, not that you organize, but locally, globally, things that you're interested in. Maintaining consistency here highlights your participation as an active community member, and that goes a long way. Creating up-to-date content. This one is special because content can be anything. It can be workshops, presentations, demos, code snippets, just a list of resources even for learning. But don't let your content get old. Tech happens so fast and there's a lot to talk about. So maintaining that updated research will really help you find up-to-date content and keep your events engaged in the new content that you're presenting. And contributing to open source. Yes, open source. It is the very nature of open source that enables developers to build onto, integrate, modify, and derive new content from. And since it's peer-reviewed, this opens up the software to large cross-collaboration opportunities. And open source ensures freedom of choice, which is prevalent. So how do you take these pillars of success and actively integrate them into your local communities? So let's dive into that. Ooh, and I'm going to go a little bit quicker here. I'm running out of time. Okay, so establishing your group. Identify your group members. Ask those questions. What does your local community need? Is there already a group that you can engage with, or do you need to start your own? Ask around. Ask your family, your friends, the internet. Find out, get some data, feedback some data about what your group members need. Build an event or a meetup page, and I'll go into that in a little bit. And create uniform social media accounts and schedule an event. Just get it out there. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we want people to know about you. And the first thing that you can do is identify yourself and establish that. Next is expand. So customize your group's URL link, whether that be a meetup link, a website, whichever, but having an easy to remember group link helps in multiple areas of promotion. Something that's super simple and easy to remember and spell. Bring branding to your community and to your event, whether that be logos or t-shirts, even name tags, anything that signifies that your members are sharing the same communal experience. That physical branding helps your members feel included and engaged. Promote in real life. You don't necessarily only have to tweet and blog. Word of mouth is incredibly powerful. So never underestimate that. That or a poster. Finding out where your potential members might be, whether that be coffee shops or libraries, parks. A little bit different now, but you understand. Promote that in real life. Share the word of mouth. Tell your family, tell your friends, tell your community members to invite their friends. And help your community members become advocates. Encourage them to promote your group and your event. The best advocates for your group are people who know it best, and let them know that it's open and that everyone is welcome and that they want more people to come. Link your branded social media accounts after you establish them. Make sure that they're all consistent and in sync and they all look well together. And then schedule ongoing and consistent events. This is really important. Make sure that you're constantly having new content and promoting events and keeping them on a consistent time schedule. And engage. Offer a unique value. As more and more online events start taking place, people are going to start showing up to events just for the sake of showing up to events. It's really important to think about the value you can bring to your members, and don't just host a discussion. Really think about the purpose that you can serve there. Always be asking, always be finding out more information, always be learning. What topics do you want to see discussed? Are you enjoying this group? What would you like to see improved? Does this date, time, platform, does that work for you? And speaking of platform, find a platform that works for your community, whether that be they need offline service, or whether that be they would like something completely free, or like ones I would suggest are Toasty and Icebreaker are pretty awesome online virtual platforms for communication and events. Help your members feel welcome. Really keep that safe space, ongoing code of conduct, like really make them feel welcome. When you're building a new relationship, it's super important to remove any uncertainty, maintaining that transparency. So the more relevant information you can provide, the better off they're going to be, because uncertainty makes people, as we're all currently aware, very anxious and stressed out. And then learn from them. Take those questions that you've been asking and execute back onto that. Let them. And I'm going to reemphasize this: keep momentum between events. Continue to encourage new speakers, new content, new events, and whether that be having them at different times, just really find out from your community what they need. And last, so I'm going to take a shift really quick here, and all of these are super important, but one other thing that I want to bring to this in the last few minutes is virtual reality. And no, I don't mean just VR headsets. I actually mean virtual is now our reality. And I put a couple of sources in here because I knew I wouldn't have time to get to them. But these are some excellent sources if you're trying to get your community online. The .NET Foundation has a whole team and community set and built to help you establish your community, get that event on Meetup, promote your event, and also information about how to get your event virtual. If you use Twitch and streaming, I've linked here a bunch of really amazing Xamarin streamers that I'm aware of. If you wanted to check out Twitch as a streaming option for your group. And then I listed a few here, links which I can share about actually setting up an online event, whether that be on Teams, whether that be on Meetup or Zoom. And I don't think I have time for questions, but I do want you all to feel like you can reach out to me if you've had experience in the community, or feedback, or you'd like to mention something about my pillars of success here. I would love to hear from you. These are my available. You can email me. That's my Twitter. I'm available. I would love to hear from you. I really appreciate you all taking the time to spend this here with me today. This was very exciting for me, and I would love to talk more about building communities with you. So thank you very, very much, and enjoy the rest of your days.